Inquiring trouble. Federal prosecutors are looking at whether the National Enquirer tried to blackmail the world's richest man, Washington Post and Amazon owner Jeff Bezos, in violation of a deal that spared the company from being charged in relation to the Michael Cohen case. Refusing to respond. The White House is refusing to meet a legal deadline to tell Congress whether it thinks Saudi Arabia's crown prince is personally responsible for the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Is the Trump team flouting the law and not very physical? As President Trump undergoes his annual checkup, sources tell CNN they don't believe he set foot in the White House fitness room despite his doctor's orders to lose weight. Why does he think working out would be a waste of his energy? I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We're following multiple breaking stories this hour, including a very contentious House hearing with the acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker in the hot seat, often unresponsive and inconsistent as Democrats grilled him for almost 6 hours about the Mueller investigation. Whitaker testified he hasn't talked about it with President Trump or interfered in any way. Also breaking, federal prosecutors are now looking into allegations by Washington Post owner and Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos that the parent company of the National Enquirer tried to blackmail him. That's a possible violation of the non-prosecution deal the company reached in relation to the case against former Trump fixer and lawyer Michael Cohen. I'll talk about that and more with Congressman Denny Heck of the House Intelligence Committee and our correspondents, analysts, and specialists. They are also standing by. First, let's get the latest on the breaking news. Our Justice reporter, Laura Jarrett, and our CNN senior Justice correspondent, Evan Perez, they're here. They're working the story. Laura, the acting Attorney General's appearance before the House Judiciary Committee was very contentious. Tell us about some of those fiery points.
Wolf, it was a combative hearing in a new Democratic-controlled House. Members ready to grill the acting Attorney General before a new man likely to take his job next week. And Whitaker was ready for a fight.
Is that correct? Simple enough question. Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, again, what is the basis for your question? You're saying that it is your...
Sure, I'm asking the questions. I only have 5 minutes. So please answer yes or no.
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to... you were asking me a question. It is your understanding. Can you tell me where you get the basis? No,
I'm not going to tell you that. I don't have time to get into that.
Mr. Chairman, I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds.
If this is the way we're going to go, then we'll have plenty of stunts. We're going to have plenty of theatrics. Bring your popcorn. I'm thinking about maybe we just set up a popcorn machine in the back, because that's what this is becoming.
I don't know if your time's been restored or not.
Mr. Attorney General, we're not joking here, and your humor is not acceptable.
It's nothing but character assassination, harassment of our witness.
I don't know what kind of suicide wish you had or whatever, but it's good to see you.
We're all trying to figure out, who are you, where did you come from, and how the heck did you become the head of the Department of Justice? In your final week, keep your hands off the Mueller investigation. I yield back.
And when it came to the Mueller investigation, Whitaker refused to not say that it was a witch hunt, aligning with the president, a stunning statement from the man in charge of the Mueller probe, and a radical departure from every other top law enforcement official we have ever heard, Wolf, speak on this issue.
Really, really contentious, extraordinary hearing. Whitaker, Evan, he did address some of the key questions about the Mueller probe. What did he say about his conversations that he had? What did we learn about the conversations he had with the president?
Well, one of the things that he did was he refused to say what he did tell the president, what kind of things he did tell the president, but he said repeatedly what he did not tell the president. Take a listen to some of that exchange.
It's a yes or no question. Have you communicated anything you learned in that briefing about the investigation to President Trump? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, as I've said earlier today in my opening remarks, I do not intend today to talk about my private conversations with the President of the United States. But to answer your question, I have not talked to the President of the United States about the special counsel's investigation.
And Wolf, one of the things he did do is he widened that further. He said he hadn't talked to people inside the White House, other White House officials, about the Mueller investigation, which is an important thing for him to note.
He said he hasn't interfered in the Mueller investigation at all. How significant is that?
Well, I think it was significant for him to say that his specific comment was that there was no decision, no event that required me to take any action that he has interfered with. And I think what that tells us in the 3 months that he's overseen this investigation, there hasn't been, for instance, a subpoena requested by the Mueller investigators to subpoena the president, to get the president to provide testimony, which we know is one of the outstanding things that has been hanging over this investigation. So at least we know that during the 3 months here, a subpoena request has not come to Matt Whitaker, and he has not rejected that because we know one has not come to the White House.
He also wasn't open. He didn't want to discuss at all his conversations with the president about Michael Cohen. What does that signal?
Until he did. He really sort of vacillated and evolved in his answers over the course of that 6-hour hearing. And it's interesting, Wolf, depending on which member of Congress, you got a different answer. So he was really pressed by Representative Cicilline to explain what happened. Our reporting in December was that the president vented to him about prosecutors in New York concerning the Michael Cohen investigation. He didn't like being implicated. He thought it made him look bad. Take a listen to how he answered members' questions.
Sir, answer the question, yes or no. Did the president lash out to you about Mr. Cohen's guilty plea?
No, he did not.
I want to know whether you talked to President Trump at all about the Southern District of New York's case involving Michael Cohen.
Congresswoman, as I've mentioned several times today, I am not going to discuss my private conversations with the President of the United States.
So he appeared to want to dispute the characterization of the president lashing onto that phrase in particular, but then he wouldn't say, I have never discussed the SDNY Michael Cohen at all with the president on that one. Then he wanted to say, I'm not willing to go there. I'm not willing to talk about it.
And we know one of the frustrations for senior officials at the Justice Department has been that the Southern District of New York does its own thing, doesn't really consult them very much on big courses of action. In this case, I think that is a frustration that Matt Whitaker probably went to the White House with and just had to be on the receiving end from the president.
And certainly the president was frustrated by it, felt like it was unfair, that these weren't real crimes, sending him op-eds. But all of that, he wasn't willing to touch.
For more than 6 hours, he appeared before that rather contentious committee. All right. Thanks very much for that. Let's get some more on the breaking news right now. Our senior congressional correspondent, Manu Raju, is joining us from Capitol Hill. Manu, so what did you hear from the chairman after the hearing, and will he subpoena Whitaker to get answers to some of those questions that Whitaker refused to answer today?
It's very possible. Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the committee, made clear that Matt Whitaker is not done answering questions. He wants to bring him back for a private interview, a deposition, transcribed interview. The transcript would later be released publicly to answer questions, even after next week when Bill Barr is expected to be confirmed as the new attorney general, and Matt Whitaker presumably will become a private citizen. At that point, still, he's expected to come in and answer those questions. And Jerry Nadler made very clear that he's prepared to subpoena Whitaker to answer those questions. He expects them to be answered when he does come forward behind closed doors. Now, among the things that Nadler is interested in are conversations that he had with the White House before he joined the Justice Department. In Nadler's view, he was not credible that he did not discuss the special counsel's investigation with the White House or with the president when he acknowledged that he interviewed for a White House attorney job to deal with the Mueller investigation. And according to Nadler, it's not credible that he would not discuss this. His views that he was very public about criticizing the Mueller investigation. Now, of course, there are other things, too, that he would not reveal his conversations with the president, including about the Southern District of New York investigation into Michael Cohen and the fact that the president had been implicated in 2 federal crimes. Those were things that he said that he's not going to discuss as a conversation with the president over. But Nadler expects those answers eventually. How Whitaker responds to that remains to be seen. I did ask, Nadler, that if anything was nefarious that was found from Whitaker's testimony if he revealed anything nefarious. He said, no, he didn't reveal anything nefarious that he'd done, but we still don't have answers as to whether he interfered with the investigation, whether he communicated with any people from the White House about the investigation, either from or to those are very key. So expect more pressure on Whitaker. He says that this White House and the administration is not used to this kind of pressure from Democratic chairmen who are going to push for these answers. We'll see what Whitaker ultimately does.
Yeah, it's a whole new world out there with the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. Manu Raju, thanks very much. Let's get some more on all of this. Democratic Congressman Denny Heck of Washington State is joining us. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
What did you think of Matt Whitaker's testimony today? 6 hours.
I had a lot of reactions, and I was able to catch quite a bit of it, frankly, in between committee hearings and the like. Well, first, I think Congressman Nadler accurately described him as arrogant in his approach. But being arrogant isn't a crime. Lying to Congress is. In fact, it's a felony, as Roger Stone and Michael Cohen can attest. And whether or not he was completely truthful, only
you think he was?
Time will tell. Well, I think he gave his testimony very cognizant of the fact that there are already 2 people going to prison for lying. But whether or not, again, that proves up over time.
But did you hear anything, and you obviously have followed all this for a long time as a member of the Intelligence Committee, did you hear anything that you suspect may have been a lie?
No, I really didn't. But then again, withholding information is not the same thing as lying, and in certain instances, as has been pointed out.
You think he did a sufficient job defending the Mueller investigation?
No, I don't think this administration has done anything but try to take it down. Otherwise, they would have supported our repeated attempts to provide legal protection to the Mueller investigation, and they refuse to do that at every turn. And my advice, by the way, Wolf, to Mr. Whitaker is if he ever has any hope at some point in his future of federal service again, that he's going to have to significantly improve his bedside manner, because how he approached that today just won't cut it in the United States Senate.
Have you ever seen a witness tell the committee chairman, your time is up?
It was shocking. No, of course not. And that's Exhibit A, and why it is I think he needs to significantly change his approach if he's ever going to come before the Senate for confirmation.
Yeah, I've been around Washington for a long time. I've covered a lot of congressional hearings. I haven't heard that. That was a new one for me as well.
Well, as you could tell from the collective gasp in the audience,
including from Jerry Nadler, the committee chairman, who he actually smiled a little bit when he was told his 5 minutes were up. Do you believe his claims that he was never instructed or directed to interfere in the Mueller investigation are true?
Whether I believe his claims or not, there are significant reasons to be suspicious of this administration from day one of trying to obfuscate. And in fact, there are credible allegations of obstruction of justice here, which are yet remain to be proved, but nonetheless are credible. So it is almost irrelevant whether he was. You have to take the body of evidence as a whole. And the body of evidence as a whole is not favorably reflecting upon the Trump administration.
The chairman of the committee, Jerry Nadler, he had threatened to subpoena Matt Whitaker if he didn't answer the questions. They had a back and forth all day yesterday. Eventually, he appeared, and he may subpoena him to come back as a private citizen because there's going to be a new attorney general in about a week or so. Should Democrats, and you're on the House Intelligence Committee, use their new majority, their power to go ahead and subpoena all of these officials, or potentially could that backfire?
We should use our authority in our newfound majority to get at the truth, Wolf, because the stakes here are pretty significant. But an adversarial foreign government interfere in our presidential election, and all the truth is not yet out. And so we should proceed judiciously and strategically, but in earnestness, and frankly, with a clear eye on the fact that we have to get at the truth. We are 633 days away from the next presidential election. We're less than a year away from the first presidential primary. If we want to avoid what we experienced in 2016, we have to get at the truth.
Your committee chairman, Adam Schiff, he's unleashed a whole bunch of questions he wants your committee, the House Intelligence Committee, to investigate. Did you see any reason to call Whitaker to come back and appear before the House Intelligence Committee?
There are a whole host of people that we need to see. Matt Whitaker may or may not fall into the constellation of the top tier of that. It remains to be seen. But we have a lot of work to do, and we have a limited amount of time in which to do it, and it'll have to be evaluated within that context.
I want you to look at the screen. We're going to show our viewers all of the House investigations that are either beginning or about to begin with this new Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. There's clearly a lot of them there, and I'm sure the people at the White House, including the president, they get heartburn when they see that.
Sure. Well, I brought this, Wolf.
Yeah.
This is a pocket copy of the United States Constitution. And in it, citizens will remember Article 1 deals with the United States Congress and sets forth our oversight responsibility. We're living up to our constitutional oath of office by providing oversight over the executive branch.
You carry that Constitution with you at all times?
Often.
I know a lot of members do. Hey, Congressman, thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome, sir.
The breaking news continues next. Virginia's lieutenant governor just now strongly denied a new claim of sexual assault. Stand by for new details. We also have more on the alleged attempt by the National Enquirer to blackmail the billionaire Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man. Tonight, federal prosecutors, they are investigating.